I'm Dr. Bart Rademacher, and this is Prescription for Your Transformation. Real people, real conversations, and real success. And bringing to you the insights that will absolutely help transform your life because of how other people have transformed theirs. And oftentimes, it's the trials and tribulations and the severe, circumstances that people deal with that really help with their transformation. And so one of the cool things that I get to do is I get to share these kinds of stories in order for the rest of us not to necessarily have to go through those severe circumstances so that we can learn and really tap into that authentic genius within us and become better. Because for me, in my humanitarian pursuits that I've had for the last, say, 40 years, when I started medical school and when at the age of 17, I realized that we really needed to work together and have a larger impact because there is so much suffering, so much poverty, so many bad circumstances that people undergo. And it's really up to the rest of us to help them. And so this is part two with an incredible freedom fighter, an anthropologist, and human being that is a light for the rest of us. And it's a reminder to the rest of us what it is that we need to be focusing on, in the plight that other peoples are going through. And so Arjan Erkel, thank you so much, author of Held Hostage in Chechnya many, many years ago for almost 2 years, released. And that experience in of itself was an inspiration for him to establish a foundation called Free the Girl USA. Arjan, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you, Bart, for having me on your show.
And you just illustrated to me just now, the impetus, the inspiration that you had to spearhead this foundation that you have in freeing these girls from the slavery, from the trafficking that is so incredibly evident throughout the world.
Yep.
And but you please share with me a little bit of the background as to why you're doing this because of your own personal experience.
Yes, okay, I will, Bart. Yeah, in short, I was taken captive for 607 days, and I was locked up under the ground, high up in the mountains, in a cage of 5 feet by 7 feet and only 6 feet high. So it was really, it felt like a grave already, in between insects, in between mice, and with men around me only wearing masks. So I never saw faces. And of course, the lack of freedom to go to the toilet, lack of freedom to take a shower, lack of freedom to choose your own food or your own book, these kind of things. And yeah, for 607 days, I was living in between life and death and wondering, why isn't anyone helping me to get out? Of course, I knew that my family would help. I knew my organization would help. And maybe I was hoping that my government would help. But still, on a bad day, I thought, no one is helping me. And sometimes I really hated my director. And I thought, when I will be released, I will kidnap him so he will feel the pain I went through. But then, of course, after 607 days, I was released and people helped my family, people helped me to get out. I met so many people who did small things, did big things, but also I met so many people who sent me postcards, who sent me emails, who sent me flowers. And I felt so much attention, but I felt also so much positivity that other people helped me to get out of my misery. And then a couple of months later, when life returned back to normal, I read about human trafficking and how many minor girls are working in places that you don't want to think about. The sexual exploitation, it's enormous. And I thought, I want to fight this because I still remember every day my mother waiting at the airport at the tarmac and her smile on her face and her grips around my body when she saw me again. And I want to give this back to the girls and to the families in India, in Cambodia, in Mexico, because first of all, it should stop, and we should, hopefully reunite those. Sometimes the girls are 9, 10 years old. They should be reunited with their family. So that's my cause, and that's why, I want other people also to join us and to be freedom fighters as well, Bart.
What you're sharing with me is something so impactful in the sense of You're the first person that I've ever talked to that has actually experienced something similar to that, and it's hard for us to contextualize to even understand, sorry, what it is like to be hostage, to be controlled, to be a slave from someone else. And
Mhm.
it's interesting in this world, and I feel very fortunate and blessed because I grew up in many different countries and I speak four languages. And so, I have a more of a worldly perspective than most other people. And I know that you do as well. You being in anthropology and working with Doctors Without Borders and really changing lives in a way that is just absolutely truly amazing. And that's truly, what all of us need to aspire to do. But the thing is that there is so much trafficking and it's throughout the world. And I actually live in a state in Florida where I'm just shocked. And I think Florida is one of the largest, trafficking states in the US. And now we have this whole crisis at the border with, the cartels now, taking advantage of human trafficking. In fact, I read a report recently that they're more happy with that. They're making more money with trafficking than they're making with drugs.
Yep,
But
yep.
regardless, this is not a political platform, but what's true is that there is so much out there. And I know one of my mentors, Tony Robbins, has a foundation as well to stop trafficking. And so I honor you for that. So tell us a little bit more about the foundation. Tell us a little bit more about what you're hoping to do and sort of the process and how we actually can support you. Because I think
Yeah.
one thing that's important of all the things I believe, if we want to help somewhere, we really have to stop this human trafficking nonsense.
Yeah, definitely. It's called Free a Girl. There's also, we started in the Netherlands, but we have the office now in India and also in the USA. And what we do is really focus on freeing the girls, because there's lots of programs supporting the girls afterwards, reuniting them with the families, but there's not so many organizations that really go into the houses, hotels, brothels where the girls are working. Yeah, working is not the right word, of course, where they are being exploited. And yeah, we what we do is we send in so-called customers, but of course they are our informants. They have to connect with the people working there, and then when the trust is built, they have to find out if the girls want to leave the place. And sometimes it's so bad that the girls feel at home in a brothel, for example, because they've been trafficked from one place to the other place, and now actually they're so bad in their life that they think this is the safest place on earth. So can you imagine how it is if a girl from 11, 12 thinks that this will be her future and this is safe, this surrounding that is safe. So it really takes lots of time to make this connection. And then together with the police, we will have a raid and then free the girls and put them in how you call these places? I don't know.
Safe house, probably.
Yeah, in safe houses. And yeah, they will get mental support. They will get support to fight the traffickers, juridical support, and of course we try to find their places where they're coming from. Because, for example, sometimes they don't even know. They're so small. They don't know if they come from, example, from Bangladesh or from Nepal because they work in India, or even in the United States. Do they know if they're from Mexico or from Honduras? Because they're so small, sometimes they don't even know. And what we do, one of the nicest program I like is the School for Justice. And sometimes the girls, they are really intelligent and smart. And we ask them if we can help them with education. And then if they agree, we will prepare them so that they can go to university and study law. And then at the end, they will be the change makers. They will be the lawyers. Maybe they will be the district attorneys, or maybe even the judges that will fight the system. And of course, not everyone, but we have 3 schools for justice now, 2 in India, 1 in Nepal. And that's really amazing. What they do is also go out on social media, which is a very brave thing to do, because there's lots of, people don't want to be identified as someone who has been working in prostitution. So they have to be transparent about it. They share their story, and they want to change the system really from within, and that's really strong, because cultures have to change from within. Lots of people within countries don't even know that there's so much trafficking, and when those girls, the survivors, tell their story, maybe it will help to speed up the process of changing the law, changing the culture, and at the end, it has to stop.
So it's interesting because, I never thought this was even possible. And then I started hearing about these things. And I have my little daughter, and well, she's not so little anymore. She's like 23. She just reminded me. But I was really concerned when she was traveling throughout the world and she was a little younger, that she could be kidnapped. And that was really the first time. And I think it was that movie with Liam Neeson on I think it was called, I forget the name, but I forget the name of the movie, but it was really impactful how his daughter was kidnapped in Paris of all places. And you'd think these major cities, it should be great and safe, but it's not. And so what are some of the things that you believe will help, besides supporting this foundation? I mean, how is it that we can get more awareness on this topic? I mean, what are some things that other people can do besides, donating money?
Yeah, like you said, of course, there's much more to do next to donating money, which anyway also helps. But to spread the word, and within your classroom, within rotaries, within your your network, that it happens, and that people should pay attention, and that people working in hotels should also pay attention. Who's coming into the hotel? How can you see that young girls are showing up with older men? So we should be aware, and we should also realize that it really happens, instead of thinking it's just a small industry. But like you said in your introduction, it's after weapons and drugs, it's already the third biggest criminal industry in the world. And next to that, we also need, of course, school programs, educational programs. Sometimes we need hardware like computers, these kind of things. But it's more on social media that we should make the world aware that it's really a giant problem, and that it's not a problem. Sometimes we criminalize those people because we call them prostitutes. We diminish their the problem, but actually I also have three daughters. They are 8, 9, and 14, and of course I would never call them prostitutes if someone kidnapped them and work in a brothel. They are trafficked human beings who don't want to be there. And I think the language has to change. The whole concept of this working in against your own free will in sexual exploitation, that's also important. So that sometimes words that we use don't help the cause.
And as you're talking, I'm thinking, well, there's really three components. I mean, on the one hand, you got the criminals, the traffickers, and that obviously, with getting the police involved, they're put in jail or whatever. Of course, then you have the children that we just have to be more mindful that we're not allowing them to be kidnapped in the first place, right? And so there's that part of the education. But I think the interesting thing that I'm not so sure is really being addressed, and maybe you can enlighten us, is, well, without the customer, right, the sex person, whatever the name they have for them, there wouldn't be that business. And that's culture, and that's education. I mean, is anybody actually focusing on that part at all?
Yeah, definitely. There's countries which prohibit being a male client, for example. So if you're looking for it, you're already being arrested. For example, in Sweden, but minor girls working in the sex industry, that's always forbidden anyway. There's not a country that allows minors to work there. But you're absolutely right. It should not happen. And next to prevention at borders, and next to prevention of families that send people to rich people or send people to schools that they never heard about. So that's the element of prevention, but also the element of like I said before, the culture of accepting it, or talking about it in a diminishing way. That also doesn't help the cause, of course. And I think that's always that's the easiest way to change, of course. Because why do we victimize? No, not victimize. Why do we accuse the girls who are, helpless?
Right. Yeah, no, I understand that part, or I'm aware of that part, and that's unfortunate. And I'm guessing, that kind of reaction is more out of, personal fear of people they don't understand, and that's just rejecting that kind of, truth and reality.
Yeah,
But the other truth and reality is that you have adults that are, for lack of a better word, messed up sexually, and that's part of what we can also focus on culturally. How can we shift that? Because I can't even imagine doing anything like that to a minor. I can't even imagine that even happening to my child. And but the truth is, it does happen a lot. And as a coach and as a plastic and reconstructive surgeon, helping people transform their own, physical identity, it's not uncommon for me to hear how people have been violated at the very, very young age, and it's sickening and saddening. But we have to do more. We have to kind of think of, how do we change the cultural norm
yeah,
that people aren't doing this in the first place? Because if there's not a customer, then you don't have a market.
that's true. That's true. Yeah, like what we do in India is really spreading the word that it exists, because of course it's always been hidden, and lots of people don't know about it. So if people don't know about it, they cannot fight against it. So we need to spread the word that it's really a problem, that it's problematic. Even human trafficking of adult people is already a problem. But if you ask people how big is that problem, no one will say it's a third biggest criminal problem. So I don't know what it is. The media doesn't give it enough attention. People try to look away from it. Sponsors don't want to, like big companies. They say, yeah, we better spend money on education because it sounds much better on your pack of any product to say, yeah, we support education instead of we fight against sexual exploitation. It's not a struggle that you want to join sometimes, although every parent understands it's something to fight about. So I think we have to, it's maybe not a direct answer to your question, but we have to accept that it exists, and we have to be much more transparent about it. And then, of course, fighting the pedophiles, it's also important, but in lots of countries, it's not related to pedophilia on its own. It's how to say it, it's just that it's so cheap. Let's give it a try. So it's not like pedophilia in itself.
Right.
Yeah.
And one thing that comes to mind, obviously, is that, with your kidnapping, you were center stage on the world stage. And so a lot of people heard about you. And I think it's time that this is on the center stage of the world stage as well.
Yeah.
And the fact that, your story, I think people can now finally relate to, being captive for so many days, with 617, you said?
Yeah, 607.
Or 607 days.
Yeah,
And
but
then,
my room, Bart, was even twice the size. I've been in India walking around in brothels. Some of the girls, they just live in a cage as big as a mattress, because that's their working place. And then you see a Mickey Mouse pillow laying there. Well, maybe 10 or 30 minutes later, some guy comes up and does the most horrible things. And I know I'm from the Netherlands and we speak about it more easily, but I've been given presentations in other countries, and then they say, please don't use these words, we don't want to hear it, it's too much invasive. And then if you don't want to hear the reality, then how can we fight the reality?
so how do people donate to your foundation?
Go to the website freeagirlusa.org, and that's where they find the donate button. And again, there, also contact us and send emails, and maybe you can be organizing an event, or maybe your Rotary wants to sponsor us, or any high school or elementary school, we can help you with setting up events.
And just so any listener, just to put in perspective, just imagine you were captive. Just imagine you were kidnapped as an adult, and you were captive for years, not months, not weeks, but years. Now imagine you're 5 years old or 10 years old. What would that be like? And that is happening today. It's both girls and boys, and young adults too. And so we need to find ways to stop. And I applaud and honor Arjan for spearheading this. He's had his own personal experience in a different manner. Fortunately for all of us, he survived, with the good graces of the people around him, including his captors, who ultimately released him, but also the people that supported his release. So Arjan, I want to thank you for today. Your work is very important, and I hope that this interview, which is the second of 3, is a great inspiration for others just to go on the internet, find his foundation, donate to his foundation, donate to other ones. Tony Robbins recently, or at all of his events, I believe, raises a lot of money for these kinds of foundations. And so I'm Dr. Bart Rademacher, and this is Prescription for Your Transformation: Real People, Real Conversations, and Real Success. Talking to Arjan Erkel, held hostage. Get his book, go to his foundation. Arjan, I want to thank you, and I want to give you the last word.
Yeah, thank you, Bart. And please, like Bart says, try to imagine how it is if you miss your child. If you see that child in that basement or in that brothel, you want her to come back. And poor people in India or Mexico or even in the United States, they also want their children back. It's not their mistake. It's something that happened to them, and they don't deserve it. No one deserves it. So please help us. freeagirlusa.org.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Dr. Rademacher's Prescription for Your Transformation. Continue the path towards discovering your own authentic genius by tuning in next time for more real conversations with real people.